Lubię was, ale muszę zaprotestować. W Europie istnieje coś takiego jak RODO i całe szczęście, bo firmy i twórcy dysponowali wizerunkiem i danymi bez ograniczeń, często wyłudzając dane, a w Polsce niewiele ludzi idzie do prawnika z byle umową lub z tak zwanym regulaminem. Byś miał rację, jakbyś gościowi zapłacił za na przykład wywiad. Z tego co wiem, w USA też tak swobodnie wizerunkiem osób nie można dysponować, a jak się mylę, prześlij mi ustawy, które zezwalają na swobodne dysponowanie wizerunkiem mimo zgody na początku, a które ograniczają wycofanie takiej zgody. Żebyś nie powiedział, że łaskawie zamazałeś twarz, to odpuściłbym sobie pisanie tego postu, ale szlak mnie trafił. Jak mu zapłaciłeś, wycofuję się z krytyki. Jeżeli nie, to zachowałeś się jak te wielkie korporacje, mimo że do nich ci jeszcze daleko. Liczę na merytoryczną odpowiedź. Pozdrawiam. To był komentarz zostawiony przez użytkownika o nazwie rosomak.pl1. Szkoda, że nie ma imienia i nazwiska. I dzisiaj się do niego odniesiemy.
You asked me before we talked about this, what do I know about laws? As far as this, you can cut out and do whatever you want. I'm just saying. As far as like laws of people walking down the street, I'm not super an expert on. Although I know what I think the laws are. But as far as the fact that he gave us consent, I am an expert on that, being a photographer. And if someone gives you consent and you have recorded proof of him giving you consent,
And also we clearly stated what is the purpose
Yeah.
and where the material is going to be published.
Then you
We did
can't-
say it's for our YouTube channel.
then that's like a contract. Just like we have model releases for photography. If somebody says, yes, you can use my likeness in this, I've gotten hundreds of model releases, then that's it.
It is a verbal agreement,
Yeah.
and it is binding according at least to the laws in US, even though of course we were in Europe, in Poland at that time, and you, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, I think you have to abide by the laws of the area where
Oh, yes.
you are recording.
Yeah, so I don't know about the laws in Europe, but I do know here in the United States, if you ask someone, can I take your picture, please? And then even have them sign, or in this case, you have him saying it on camera, yes, you can do this, then that's that. Because imagine if people could just retract that. There'd be nothing on television anymore.
Nothing on YouTube.
Anywhere, yeah. I mean, that's just not the way it is.
So we've been doing this for years, not really street photography, but wedding photography. And imagine what would happen if somebody half famous or celebrity was at a wedding and after the wedding said, I don't want to be in any photographs. Well, bad luck, because if you go to a wedding, you have to consider that you're going to be recorded, and not just by one person. I mean, everybody shoots with iPhones these days. Anywhere you are, on any street, any corner, you are being recorded by probably a few cameras at a given moment, at least in big cities in USA, probably in Poland, the same thing. I mean, the technology is definitely there. Every
So-
ATM, every traffic camera.
I mean, you might have some argument if you're on the street and you trick somebody into, like you've said, making them feel stupid. It's slander or misleading the public about what they are. But you went up to this person. We saw him walking around with a camera, and we thought, oh, it's like a kindred spirit kind of a thing. So you would think when somebody who has a camera themselves sees you with your camera recording him saying, yes, you can record me, I can be interviewed, that's that. That's the end of it. You can't just come back a year later, or whatever it's been, 6 months, and
8
say,
months.
yeah, and say, I changed my mind.
And that was the overwhelming response from our viewers. I would say 95% of people replied in similar manner, saying that we shouldn't even worry about this, and since his face is now blurred, there's no problem anymore. One guy even said that in another 8 months, everybody will forget this even existed and nobody will care anymore. So he's probably right.
So are you going to talk about the fact, what did you say this?
The factual basis
Yeah.
of...
For this person who left that comment that was so pissed off?
Right. So first of all, this is United States. Laws vary state by state. In New York, for example, you can photograph even children and police officers on the streets if they are in a public location.
Police officers, you can just
Absolutely.
record them, period.
Yeah, so
I
there's
mean-
there's no restrictions for that at all. A lot of these laws, as I was studying them over the years of doing wedding and some photojournalistic photography, are kind of common sense based. So there is something like reasonable reasonable expectation of privacy. So basically, it's just common sense. Like you cannot cross certain boundaries without asking people for permission. In Texas, for example, there is a specific law that says you cannot concentrate on people's genitalia while photographing them in
really?
public
Oh.
locations, or you cannot produce material from accidental people photography and film that would intentionally be tuned towards arousing people's sexual desires.
That's a law.
That
in
is the
Texas?
law in Texas. So it
Okay.
really focuses on certain aspects of.
Well, that is appreciative, actually.
It
because
is.
I
it
wouldn't
is.
want to
As
walk
I,
around.
As I said, it's kind of based on common sense.
Yeah.
There are also laws in many U.S. states that talk about the more of the location where the photography takes place or filming than actual people. So, for example, they say you can freely photograph and film people walking around in public locations, but you cannot shoot private spaces and areas from public location. Meaning, if you stand somewhere on a street, you're
You can't
on
go
an
through the
elevated
somebody's
location.
fence.
Yeah, you can't shoot through somebody's window into their bedroom or bathroom
Yeah.
or something like that and record their private activity.
Which is really funny that we're talking about this now because there is a hotel in New York City called The Standard, and people expect that you're going to be photographing them through the window. But we're not going to talk about that.
Why is that so? Is that like something weird again?
It is.
Okay.
People can Google that on their own.
All right. We're not going to go there today. So as far as the actual laws in the US go, in general, these laws are pretty loose. They're the notion.
I mean, that one right there, that sentence right there. Public places are for the public. We pay for them with our taxes, so they are shared and common ground. As long as your feet are on public property, you are within your rights to photograph what you wish.
And also this notion of reasonable expectation of privacy is actually mentioned in those laws quite often, which means a lot of these laws are written with an assumption that people will have common sense. Of course, people don't have common sense very often. A lot of them do, but a lot also have complete disregard for people's privacy. So it's difficult to write a perfect law. Najlepsze, co możecie zrobić, to oczywiście poprosić każdą osobę występującą w waszym filmie o podpisanie jakiegoś konkretnego dokumentu, takiego jak na przykład model release, i wtedy obydwie strony wiedzą dokładnie, na czym stoją. W praktyce natomiast wygląda to nieco inaczej, bo wyobraźcie sobie, że filmujecie w samym centrum Nowego Jorku i każda z osób, która znajdzie się w waszym kadrze, musi wam podpisać jakiś dokument. Jest to raczej niemożliwe, nawet zapytanie ich o pozwolenie jest totalnie nierealne. Chyba że uważacie, że się mylę, więc jak zwykle czekam na wasze opinie.
Thanks so much for watching.
We'll be back on Monday this time.